It couldn't get any worse for your students. Well, now Virginia football is basically canceled. The Virginia High School League decided to delay all fall sports until a final decision is made at the end of the month. Take a look at what is on the table. So we have the first option for you, and it says, let's see here, and the third, or actually the first option for you, I'm trying to read this right now. Let me see if I can go back. Small writing. Here we go. Oh, okay, so it looks like, yeah, okay. No field hockey or football, and then volleyball and cheerleading, only things allowed. Golf and cross country in the fall. Second option here, switch in fall and spring sports, so you'd get track and field, baseball, soccer, and softball, but still no football and no lacrosse mentioned. And then the third option here, no sports at all until maybe December. So joining us now to kind of take a detailed look at it, that's a lot of writing on the screen, is Bill Curran, the Fairfax County Schools Director of Athletics and Activities. Thank you for waking up early with us this morning, standing out there in the sunshine. First, I want to get your reaction, Bill, to no football in the fall, because when we look at all three of these options, that was the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, that's the thing that's going to jump out at you. The first thing you see is, wait a minute, option one says no football. We've canceled football. As I was part of the meeting yesterday, and then as soon as that meeting ended and everything went public, my phone blew up, the email was blowing up, no football, football's canceled. You really have to dive a little deeper. Option one does eliminate some sports, and that's something we never want to do. So that's a piece that isn't real attractive. I don't think it's attractive to the VHSL. I can tell you it's not. It's not attractive to the executive committee members. It's really not an attractive option to any of us, because the last thing we want to do is limit those opportunities. We need to get our kids back out. We need to, as soon as it's safe and as soon as we're cleared to do so, we want to get kids back playing, doing the things they should be doing when they're in high school.
Yeah, and so when you look at option two, you know, I know that they're looking at swapping out the fall sports for the spring. So is that a possibility, seen football and them hitting the field come spring?
Option two is certainly on the table. It's one to be considered as well. It certainly has some of its downfalls as well. You mentioned before, lacrosse comes potentially isn't really mentioned, and is that going to be fit in somewhere? So again, it eliminates a couple of programs and doesn't really get them an opportunity to play. So, and it also has an impact on the spring. And spring already took a huge hit when we had to shut down in March. All the spring seasons across the country, obviously not just for us, were shut down, and our spring athletes lost everything. And that's a painful thing. Our coaches did a phenomenal job of reaching out to our student athletes right away, of being active, of staying engaged through social media, through different ways to meet with our student athletes. But that was a painful thing for our kids. And we want to support all we can do to protect that spring season and keep that as whole as possible, under whatever guidelines we may face. So the idea of kind of protecting the spring is a philosophy we take, that we want the spring to be in the spring and to be a whole with all the spring sports in the spring.
Yeah, because when you think about it, if you were to swap it out and say we get this second wave that everybody's talking about in the fall, and they end up canceling everything in the fall, then it's like that's a double whammy, right? Because we've already canceled the spring, this past spring, and then they would lose their season there. So I know that that's one concern. But you've had time, obviously, to look over this in detail. So in doing that, which one stands out to you as the best option right now?
Without question, option three is the best option. It gives us 3 seasons. Obviously, we'd love to start in a couple of weeks and start fall sports and run everything like we always have, but that's just not going to happen. And we know that's not really a possibility right now, given the guidelines and the things we have to do to protect our students. So the reality is the best option that presents itself is option three. It preserves 3 separate seasons. It does condense them a little bit. It moves it around. It's a little untraditional, obviously, but it does give us an opportunity to put our student athletes and our students in positions where they can be engaged, they can do the things that they love to do and still have their sports, still have their activities. You don't see a lot of talk about it, but there's a lot of other activities involved there too. There's debate, there's theater that we need to, and forensics that we need to make sure we keep going, which we can certainly do. So option three, which I will tell you, the Virginia High School League Executive Committee meeting yesterday, that had significant support. That is really the direction.
Because I know you're involved with the board, so you're an insider. You're right in there, and I think it's just a matter of looking at, hey, we're probably just not going to have as many games. We're probably not going to be able to do all the playoffs and all that. So it's going to look a little different, but at least you get it in. So how is the county right now, Fairfax County, preparing for sports to return? And what are you hearing from parents and students?
Well, first thing, we entered phase 2. So phase 2 under the Virginia guidelines and the return guidelines we were able to start bringing students back onto fields under very, very strict guidance. We have a few just showing up here at Centerville now. We do a health screening, a health check every single time, and bring them onto the field. They are spaced out, socially distanced, with plenty of room, and they go through. We're able to start workouts with those groups, with students under these very, very strict guidelines. I want to emphasize their safety is first. We do a temperature check every single time, and we do a whole healthcare screening that our health department gave us. And we've had a great response from our parents and our students and our coaches. And our coaches are doing this. They're not being paid for this. They're doing this to re-engage our students with their communities. You're not building a better field hockey player, football player, soccer player today. You're not going to do that through these agility and conditioning workouts. There's no equipment on the field. There's no anything other than just agility equipment or agility work that a student's doing individually with the guidance of a coach. And we've had great feedback on that. So that's step one. And obviously very, very restricted. But beyond that, we're looking and working with the high school league with how do we return back into some normalcy with regards to opportunities for our kids.
Because regardless of how or which option is chosen, we know for sure that there's one thing for sure, and that's coaches want to coach and students want to compete, right? So Bill Curran, the athletic director with Fairfax County Public Schools, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Angie.
Al?